Okay, well, good Friday morning, ninth graders. I hope you all are doing well. I am going to not teach a new lesson for this weekend, but instead we are going to do some review from 10.1 and 10.2 as we had a lot of struggles. Some of you really understand it, and then some of you just need more work and more practice, and that makes sense because it's a totally new concept. So don't feel bad if you're struggling to understand it. So I'm going to do some practice problems, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do for homework. It's going to just be a few of review. So not very much homework for this weekend. Okay, so the first part of the lesson, 10.1, one of the things they talked about is pulling out what it has in common. Okay, so that's greatest common factor and then the variables of the greatest common factor, okay? So let's say they have a problem like this. 3x squared y to the fifth plus 12xy to the third. Okay, now the first thing that I do is I look for the variables, and I say, what is the same in those variables? Well, they each have an x, and now it has to be something that's in both terms, and the x is in both terms, and there's one x and there's two x's in that one. So the most that I could take out from either one is simply an x, right? Because when I take the x out of this one right here, it's going to go away, and it's going to be canceled out, okay? And this one is going to reduce that to 1. Okay, then I do the same thing with my y variable, and I say y to the fifth and y to the third. Well, the most that both of them have in common is the 3 right here. So I can take out y to the third, and that will get rid of that guy. And you do 5 minus 3 over here, and there's going to be 2 y's left. Okay? So then I come to the numbers, and I got a 12 and a 3. What do they both have in common? Well, the biggest thing they have in common is the 3 itself, so I can take the 3 out of them. And when I do that, I divide the 3 by the 3. And now I write over here, and I have 1. And what do I have left over here? I have x to the first left, and y to the second left. Y to the second. Then I do plus. Okay, so that sign stays the same right there, that plus sign. Then I do 12 divided by the 3. This 3 right here is being divided over there. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And so now I have 4. And look what happened. The x and the y are both gone. So I just have plus 4. And that is my final answer. So I have 3xy to the third. All of that times xy to the squared plus 4 in parentheses. Okay? So there's one. I'm going to do another one just to keep explaining, just trying to get you to think about how this works. So let's look at this right here. 25a to the 7th dc plus a negative 15. So actually, it's got plus a negative. It's just minus. We'll just do that. Minus 15a squared d squared. Okay, now I have to look what is in common with the variables. Okay, there's an a and there's an a. So I know I can take at least one a out. But look, there's 2 here and 7 here. So the most I could take out is 2. So I'm going to come over here and put a squared. I know I can take 2 away. Okay, and that's going to get rid of this guy. And that's going to make this one 7 minus 2, which is 5. Okay, so I know I'm going to have a to the 5th left. Now I look at my next one. I look at d, and I have 1 d, and I have 2 d's. So the most that I have to take out is this guy has 1, so I can take out that 1, and I'm going to have 2 minus 1, which is 1d left. So I'm able to take out a d. Now I look over here at the c, and he's all by himself. There's no c over here, so that means he has to stay. I can't do anything with that, okay? So that means that's all my variables. Now I go to my numbers. I got 25 and 15. If I think of a number that can go into both of those, that would be 5, right? 5 can go into 15, and that is, so 15 divided by 5 equals 3, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. So I know that I can now divide by 5. So now I got that done. I do 25 divided by 5, and that equals 5. What do I have left? I have a to the 5th left, a to the 5th, and I have this c, okay? Then I just write the minus sign. That stays the same from up there. And now I do 15 divided by 5, and 15 divided by 5, as I wrote over here, is 3. So I have 3. The a's are gone, and the d is now down to 1. So I have a gone, and D right there. So that is my final answer. 5a squared D times 5a to the 5th C minus 3D. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Not too confusing. That's our final answer right there. Okay? So that was 10.1. 10.1. I'll let you know what the homework for that is. It's only going to be 6 problems or 7 problems. I'll let you know what that is at the end of this video, so keep watching. Now, for 10.2, this is factoring the trinomials, okay? So when we have trinomials, so this is 10.2. If you want to follow along, now I'm on page 411. Okay, 411. Now, let's say that I have one that looks like this. A squared plus 2a minus 8. Now, when I'm looking to factor that, this half right here, I look at this sign first. I say that is a negative sign. And when that is a negative sign, that means 1 is positive, and it means 1 is negative. So, that means that when I come down here into my 2 binomial brackets, 1 is going to be negative and 1 is going to be positive. And I would put that in there. I know that just by looking at that negative sign, I know that that is true, okay? Then I look at this sign right here, and it's a positive. And when that's a positive, it means that the bigger number is positive as well. So that means in this slot, after that positive sign, is got to be my bigger number, okay? Now I know that this a squared splits into a and a. That's pretty easy, right? A times a in FOIL method with that arrow is a squared. So we got that. Now we got to figure out what is going on with this 8 right here. What times what is 8? So I got 2 times 4, 1 times 8. Those are my options, right? So which one of those, when we add and subtract, is going to equal 2? Well, you already see it here, right? 2 times 4 is 8, and then when you add or subtract, you get a 2. Okay, now, so that means my numbers are 2 and 4. So now I got to figure out which one goes with the positive, okay? Well, I just showed you over here, the bigger one is positive, so that means that the 4 has got to come to the positive sign, and the 2 is going to stay over there. Now, I can check all of that by simply doing our FOIL, right? I get a times a squared. A times negative 2a, negative 2a. 4 times a is plus 4a. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Combine like terms, and I get a squared plus 2a minus 8, and that shows that I did it right, meaning that this down here in our blue is the final answer. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I'll give you the homework. So, let's look at number in your book if you're following along. This is number 5. Okay, so it says b squared plus b minus 20. Okay, now this problem is very similar to the last one. Okay, do you see this right here? I look at the first thing I do is look at that sign and say it's negative. What does that mean? Well, if you're paying attention in the last step, that means 1 is positive, 1 is negative. Then I take this guy right here, and I know that it's going to be b and b. I don't even have to do any math to know that. That's just what happens for the first term when there's no number in front and it's just the variable. Okay, now at this point, I'm looking for what times what is 20. Well, I got 2 times 10, but when that's added together, that does not equal 1, right? You see I only got 1b right here. So, no, that doesn't work. And then I got 4 times 5. Oh, and when we add and subtract those, right, this is going to be 8 or 12. This is going to be 1 or 9, depending if we're adding and subtracting when you got 4 and 5. So I need a 1, so I know that it means that I'm going to be using the 4 and the 5. So 4 and 5. Now, how do I know which one is positive, which one is negative? Well, I come back to this sign right here, and it's a plus. And when that's a plus, it means bigger is positive. So then I come over here and say, which one's bigger? That's the 5. So I just write the 5 over here in the plus, and the 4 over here in the minus, okay? I'm going to do one more, just to help us continue where we've been going. So, let's do this one right here in your homework. This is number 11. It says x squared minus 9x. So this is your first homework problem for today, plus 20. So I would write this down. You don't have to do it for homework. So we do the same thing. We come into our two brackets, and we have x and x. I already know that's going to be the case. Now, I look at this sign, and what is it? It is a positive this time. So that means both of these signs, right there and right there, are the same. Okay, both right there are the same. And so because both of those are the same, it's because this is a plus. They're either both negative, negative, or they're positive, positive. Now, how do I know if they're both positive or both negative? Well, that's where I just look to this guy right here, and it is a negative. And when that is a negative, in this case, it means both are negative. So I come down here and erase this and say, guess what? I already know. Both are negative. Negative, negative. Now all I do is I look at this 20, and I say, okay, what times what is 20? We had this in our last one, 10 times 2, and that gives us a difference of 8 or 12. Then I come down here, and I have 5 and 4, right? 5 times 4 is 20. But added together, it's either 9 or negative 1. Well, what do I need up here? I need a 9. So I look down here and say, oh, that's the 9. So that means my numbers that I'm going to be using are 5 and 4. Now, the sign's the same. You see that? They're both negative, so it doesn't matter. I can write them either way. 4 and 5, or switch them. It will be the same answer. And there, right there, ladies and gentlemen, is my final answer. So, for homework, this is what we're going to be doing for Monday. On page 406, we're going to do 20 through 26 all. Actually, I think it may be page 407, because it's on the back half of the homework. Nope, it's 406, just kidding. Then, so that's the first step. Then we will be doing page 411, and we will be doing the one that I just started on here, 11 through 19. Key part, odd. 11 through 19, odd. So if you get stuck, you can look in the back of the book to help you on some of those. But please try them on your own. It's not going to help you just look at the back of the book and write the answer down. That will not help you learn at all. So there is our review lesson that we're going to do this weekend, and we'll probably do a Zoom next week to talk about confusing parts of these lessons. Okay, Mr. H is over and out. Enjoy your weekend.